I'll tell you right now, if you'd asked me 5 years ago what would make me public enemy number one in a sleepy Michigan subdivision, owning a snowblower wouldn't even crack my top 50. But life's funny that way. One minute you're living in a perfectly normal neighborhood, the next you're the villain in a story folks will whisper about for years. So I'm Isaac Anderson, and for 3 pretty uneventful years I called Meadowbrook Estates home. Little boxes, rows of beige and gray lawns, so trimmed you'd think the grass was afraid of being itself. The rules, endless. I mean, you'd get a letter if your mailbox was a little crooked or your grass grew a half-inch too tall. Still, I figured if I played by the book, kept my head down, things would stay peaceful. Guess I should have known better. It all started with a snowblower. And not just any old hunk of metal. I bought myself the Ariens Platinum 28 SHO, which if you care about horsepower could throw snow into next week. Heated grips, custom cover, even a shed to keep it in. I went the whole 9 yards. Spent months saving $2,000, gone in a heartbeat, but it was worth it the first morning I fired that thing up. Michigan winters don't mess around, and neither did my snowblower. You know what's wild? The trouble didn't come from me showing off. It was just neighbors noticed things. Gerald Patterson, sweet guy, retired, saw me out there and asked if I'd help clear his driveway. I did it, no big deal. Refused his $20, but he forced it on me anyway. That right there is where everything should have ended. But nothing ever does in places like this, does it? Word got around. By the next snow, 3 more neighbors were knocking, hoping I'd clear their driveways too. I had to draw the line, told them politely, look, this is just for me. I don't have time, and honestly, keeping up the machine isn't cheap. Then came Sharon Whitmore, our self-crowned HOA queen, rolled up in her white Mercedes, a license plate that said boss lady and the bylaws tucked under her arm like she was packing heat. She stood on my porch, arms crossed, gave me that look. If you've ever been on the wrong end of a PTA president, you know the one. We need to talk about your snowblower, she said right to my face, skipping any of that fake nice small talk. Apparently refusing to share was a crime now, against the spirit of community, she said, waving that leather-bound rulebook. She actually tried to quote me some section about residents contributing to neighborhood welfare, like owning a snowblower suddenly made me the community's snow janitor. I wish you could have seen her face when I said no. To be clear, I wasn't being a jerk. I explained it's my equipment, my gas, my time. If folks needed help, there are pros for that, or they could buy their own machines. That should have been it, right? Nope. 3 days later, a certified letter showed up. My shed, the one approved by the board, was suddenly 3 inches too tall, according to a re-inspection. Fines, threats, the whole 9 yards. I measured it myself, dead on 72 inches, just like the approval. Called Sharon, she stonewalled me, said their inspector was right, and I had 30 days to comply. You ever feel your blood pressure hit the roof? That was me standing in the cold, tape measure in hand, realizing this wasn't about the shed. It was about me saying no. So I called in a lawyer, Rebecca, sharp as a tack and not the least bit intimidated by HOA bullies. She told me straight up, this is retaliation. Document everything. And I did. Pictures, contractor measurements, a letter to the board. They fined me anyway, $50 a day. Then banned me from the next HOA meeting for being hostile. Yeah, hostile for not wanting to be pushed around. Rebecca filed an injunction, sent a cease and desist letter, and suddenly the fines stopped. But Sharon didn't. She went after everything: my trash cans, my holiday lights, the length of my grass, petty stuff every week, just trying to grind me down. And every morning it snowed, I'd clear my driveway, look out my window and see neighbors struggling. Normally I'd help, I really would, but this was war now. Gerald, bless him, tried to play peacemaker. He showed up one night, bottle of wine in hand, eyes full of regret. If I'd known helping me would start all this, he trailed off. I told him, this isn't your fault. Some people just need to be in charge of something. He mentioned folks were talking about calling a special election to kick Sharon out, but folks were scared. I thought about it. Decided I'd rather go down swinging than let her bully me forever. Next day I went door-to-door, petition in hand. Some neighbors wouldn't even open their doors, afraid of the drama. Others, like Mary, whose son's basketball hoop had been an inch over the line and got a violation for it, signed without blinking. Tom across the street signed too, but made me promise not to tell. I got the signatures, turned them in, and the board had to call a special election. Sharon sent her lawyer husband to threaten me. He tried to act tough, but the law was on my side, and he knew it. Funny how the truth has a way of shining through even when people are desperate to hide it. After that, Sharon went nuclear. She parked in front of my house, paced past my property with a clipboard, sent inspectors to my shed over and over. But the more she pushed, the more folks turned on her. By the time the election rolled around, people were fed up. Then, like a gift from the universe, we got slammed by the biggest blizzard in years. 2 feet of snow road shut down, schools closed. I kept my driveway clear, prepped, the generator had coffee brewing. But Sharon and her husband, out there shoveling, breaking their backs, looking miserable. She marched up to my house, cheeks red, breath puffing, and said, "I need to borrow your snowblower. It's an emergency." I looked her dead in the eye and told her no. Not after all she'd done. Not after the harassment, the threats, the pettiness. She sputtered, tried to guilt me, claimed I was being unreasonable. I reminded her for 3 months she'd made my life hell. This was karma, plain and simple. And she and her husband finally gave up, paid some guy $250 to clear the rest. He did a terrible job. And the next week we held that election. Sharon lost. Badly. New president, a woman named Jennifer Sharp, fair no nonsense. First thing she did was toss out all the fake violations, apologize to me in front of the whole room, and set about fixing what Sharon broke. I wish I could say that was the end. But Sharon had one last card up her sleeve. 2 weeks after the election, I woke up to find my shed vandalized, graffiti, ripped covers, sugar poured in the snowblower gas tank, over $3,000 in damage, and I knew exactly who was behind it. Turns out her own son couldn't take it anymore. He came to my house shaking and told me his mom paid a local guy to do the dirty work. The police got involved, and with his testimony plus phone records, they arrested Sharon. She ended up pleading guilty, got probation. Community service had to pay for everything she destroyed. Richard filed for divorce not long after. That house went up for sale before the spring thaw. Funny thing, life got better the moment she left. The HOA stopped being a weapon and became, well, a neighborhood association again. Jennifer put clear language in the rules: personal property is personal, no forced sharing, and no more harassment dressed up as enforcement. My business grew. I helped neighbors who respected my boundaries, sometimes for cash, sometimes for cookies, or just a thank you. Folks looked out for each other again. I started a voluntary tool sharing group with my own rules. My snowblower never left my hands, but I'd clear driveways for folks I trusted, and always by choice. The best part: helping people like Dorothy, who's 84 and bakes the best chocolate chip cookies you've ever had, or Frank, the old vet who waves from his porch proud as can be. That's what a real community feels like, people choosing to look after each other, not being forced, not being bullied. Looking back, I learned a lot. Stand your ground. Document everything. Don't let fear or bullies or people with a tiny bit of power push you around. Most folks are reasonable, but the ones who aren't, you just have to outlast them. Sometimes the best justice is just letting their own actions catch up to them. I see Sharon every now and then. Well, I did before she moved away for good. Never apologized, not even once. But Richard did. And Kyle, the kid who stood up and told the truth, he's off at college now doing just fine. So here I am, 3 winters later. My new snowblower, better than the last, sits in a locked shed with cameras covering every inch. My driveway's always clear, my neighbors wave, and the neighborhood happier, healthier, friendlier. No more war, no more petty drama. If you're ever in my shoes, someone pushing you, demanding what's yours, don't cave. Stand up, draw your line, defend it, even if it's just a driveway in the snow. Let me ask you, since you've made it this far, where's the line for you? Would you have given in or stood your ground? I'd love to hear what you think. Maybe you've got your own story about an HOA or a neighbor, or just a time you had to fight for what was right. Tell me, because if there's one thing I know now, it's that we're not alone in these battles. And that, my friend, is how you turn a snowblower war into a win, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's ever had to say no. That's mine, and you can't have it.